We would just like jump on the roofs of these garages. I used to do that back in the days. Come back home, like Salta, go home. This is basically the entrance to the apartment complexes. That might not be as safe in the Western countries. Hi guys, my name is Salta, and on this channel I share a lot of information of what it's like to live in Kazakhstan. And today we're doing something new, and I wanted to show you a typical Kazakh apartment building common area. So this is a typical Kazakh building that would be like a 5-story building. That kind of apartment complexes were built back in the Soviet times, and we have a lot of them all over Kazakhstan, and they're very like typical. So we are not going to go into the apartments yet, but we're going to see what the common area, the communal area is like, because it is a big part of Kazakh families and Kazakh lifestyle. So let's check it out. Look at that. There's a little garden that somebody just started on the communal area. This is not a typical backyard. If you had your own house and if you have your own backyard, you can just do whatever you want there, but this is considered atypical to me. Like nobody would do that in a communal area, but there's probably some kind of lady that has some time and she just like planted some flowers, and even like I saw some cucumbers or something like that here. As you can see behind me are the garages. These are also very typical to Soviet times, to Kazakh apartments and apartment complexes. Back in the days, these were given for some kind of like Soviet workers as like a parking spot for your car. But people started using it not just for cars. They would just store things there. They would, I don't know, set up some kind of studios there. Like it's whatever you want to do there, but these are very typical. And back in the days when we were kids, we would just like jump on the roofs of these garages, and it's just one big part of like Kazakh typical apartment complexes and like the communal area. So every communal area has usually like the garages, they have some kind of playground, and I'm going to show you what else they have further. So the way the buildings are set up, they're usually made so that like 4 different buildings are set like a square, and in the middle of that square of 4 different buildings there is one communal area with a playground where, you know, there are some benches where a lot of older people sit on, and there's kids like from all over the complex. They just like come to the communal area, they play together, they can stay there all day long. And I used to do that back in the days. Like this is the best part because you don't need kindergarten, you don't need any kind of entertainment for kids. They just go outside and play with each other. That might not be as safe in the Western countries, like they would consider it maybe sketchy, but here it's very safe. Like people stay late up like till like 10 p.m. or something, and they just play with different games, and like, yeah, and they become friends. They just like grow older together. So there's like the whole life that's going on there. So yeah, let's go take a closer look. So behind me you can see like there's all the parking spots here, and people actually park wherever they want. There's no like specific parking areas, as long as you don't block other cars or, you know, some kind of entrance. People just park everywhere. But behind me is the playground, and that's kind of also a typical playground. It usually has some kind of sliding attractions and things like that. So let's go and see. So here I would see a lot of like older people play chess with each other, and just like there's like table tennis, there's all the different swings. Oh, this is my childhood right now. I used to love these. fun part is the kids that I was telling you about that play on this playground usually are not supervised if they're not like too young, if they're not like 2 or 3 years old. Starting from about like 5 years of age, people just like let their kids to be outside, and usually everybody knows each other. Usually everybody in the neighborhood knows each other, knows like all the neighbors and what kind of families there are, what kind of kids there are. So it's kind of like people just like feel safe here. That's how I've been raised. Usually like any typical Kazakh person would have been raised in this kind of community, and that's really cool because you do have people watching you, but at the same time you have freedom, you play all day long, so it's a lot of fun. It used to be a lot of fun, at least. So these kind of little like hanging rods here are to hang laundry because I don't know, like we don't usually have drying machines or dryers in apartments, so people either like hang their laundry in their houses, in their apartments, or they can take that outside, and if you see that outside, that's very normal and typical. And the fun part is that it's very common to take like your rug basically outside and start like, you know, hitting it to the point that it's gonna be like all dead. But it's very common that Kazakh people take their rugs outside and like start to like try to get the dust out of their rugs. So that's very fun. And also when we were outside playing, like a lot of the times our moms or like our parents would scream from like the windows, "Come back home, like Salta, go home." And it's very fun. And then there's a lot of like businesses that would come here. And then there's a lot of businesses that would drive around like these little communal areas, and they would stop and like scream, you know, "We brought milk, you know, milk." And they would just like, it would like typical sound, "Молоко, сметана, творог." So it's basically they would bring some kind of homemade milk, you know, dairy products, and they would scream in every neighborhood that they brought it, and people would just come outside, make a line, and buy those. And if you don't have water in your apartment complex for some reason, there's like a lot of like machines that come with water. You come with your buckets and get that water. So there's a lot of stories that come like that are related to communal areas. So as you can see, it was so much fun. Let's see what kind of entrances to the apartment complexes. So all these houses, if you can see, they're like pretty long. So every apartment complex has at least like 2 or 3 entrances, and every entrance just like has different apartments in there. So yeah, let's go check it out. So as you can see behind me is the typical entrance to every apartment complex, and usually they have 2 doors, and as you can see there's no way to take your stroller up, so it's not convenient for anyone with like strollers or anything, and it's not friendly for disabled people too, but you know, that's how they built it back in the days. And those 2 doors, one is the entrance to the apartments, and the other is the entrance to the basement of this building, and each entrance has the separate entrance to the basement, and usually that is used as some kind of storage. You know, people set up some kind of businesses there in the basement, but yeah, it's usually locked, nobody goes there, so yeah. And as you can see, there's a lot of greenery, so that means this is like pretty old communal area, because there's like these trees are like huge, and they've been here for at least like 50 years or something. There's a lot of shadow, so kids can safely play here and not get sunburn or something like that. Notice that all the entrances to the apartment complexes are locked, and this is made on purpose for security purposes. So they have the telephone or whatever type of security system where you would just dial the apartment you need to go to, they're gonna buzz you in. But other than that, if you don't have any kind of key or you don't know anyone in the apartments, that you're not going to be able to get in, which is the case for us now. But yeah, I think it's a good thing. as you can see, a lot of the first floors have the metal grids on the windows just for security reasons. And yeah, that's pretty common for a lot of the apartment complexes. So this is basically the entrance to the apartment complexes. They have their mailboxes there, and yeah, it's pretty typical. There's no elevator, and yeah. Interesting thing about the apartment complexes in Kazakhstan that practically every single communal area, like every single house or building, has a little convenience store. It has like very basic things that you need, and like milk, you know, bread and eggs or something like that, water. So very basic things that you might need, you just get it in the nearby convenience store, and that's very convenient because you don't see that in a lot of the Western countries. So, and aside from that, there's also a little, you know, booth where they sell fruits and vegetables, and that's usually, that has like seasonal types of fruits and vegetables like strawberry and like all of those things, and that's really cool that you have two different spots. They're very small, they're very convenient, and that you can get pretty much everything you need there, aside from like things that you buy in bulk or, you know, some hygiene products, but you can get that in a bigger store. So our last stop for today is gonna be a soccer field. Let's check it out. So there's the soccer field behind me. As you can see, a lot of kids are playing there. And I've seen like professional teams come here and play, but usually like every typical communal area has a soccer field and people play, or, you know, basketball field. So this is really cool that kids get to engage into sports while being like next to their houses, and they get to communicate, they get to talk, make friends, you know, play sports. So this is the best thing ever because they're not in their phones, they're not playing video games, they're living their life, and this is the coolest thing ever. So this was it. This is the typical communal area in any apartment complex in Kazakhstan. And typical apartment complexes, there are usually 5-story buildings. If you like this video, here's another video that you might like. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my other one. Bye guys!